Well, good evening. I'm your host, Robert Wilson with Cowboy Wisdom Podcast. Tonight's podcast is 7 Ways Why Mindset is an Unrealized Prison. As I see through the veil and laugh at the cage, I unleash my rebellious energy. Mindset is an unrealized prison because it tricks you into worshiping your own walls. It wraps limitation in spiritual language, paints fear as logic, and calls the cage a comfort zone. The mind loves pretending it's the oracle, but it's really recycling old echoes. And I've witnessed that in my deal. When you get that mindset and you get that stubborn and you get really focused, most of that is from the past. And that's something I've really opened up to realize. The moment you tap into your deeper awareness, the mystical rebel within you sees the whole structure for what it is. It's a self-made spell that you're no longer obligated to obey. Why is mindset the ghost of your past running your present? Mindset is the ghost of your past running your present because it's built from every old belief, fear, and interpretation you never ever questioned. It whispers yesterday's limits into today's choices, replaying patterns you outgrew long ago. Until you see it and understand it and you're aware of it, you mistake its echoes for intuition. And see, that's a lot of things. When you have a thought, that's not spiritual. And if it's coming from your inner dialogue, a lot of times that's not spiritual. That's not intuition. It's yesterday's beliefs. Once you catch the ghost in the act, its power dissolves, and your real self, your real sovereign authenticity steps forward. Why mindset is an inherited nervous system and embedded mind programming. Mindset is an inherited nervous system pattern and an invented mental program because it's built from conditioning, memory, and neurobiological wiring, never from your authentic conscious choosing. Why mindset comes from the nervous system. Research shows the mindset forms through repeated emotional and behavioral conditioning beginning in childhood. These patterns become automatic because the nervous system learns to respond from its cues in the same way every time. Early reinforcement and punishment shape long-term behavior patterns and apparent conditioning. Emotional triggers form through classical conditioning wiring fear or safety into the body's responses. Stress hormones influence whether the brain treats challenge as threat or opportunity, shaping mindset at a biological level. In other words, your nervous system learns your mindset before you ever think of it. Why inherited nervous system programming mind invented thinking and knowing is from the past, never getting to present moment. The nervous system reacts from memory, never nowality. So the present never gets a chance. Inherited nervous system programming is built from what your ancestors survived, never what you're living now. It fires off based on old danger patterns, never current truth. So as life is safe, the body behaves as if it's still in the past. Have you ever witnessed that in your life? I've witnessed that in mine up until about 2 years ago as I began rising out of it. The mind then follows the body's lead, interpreting the present through yesterday's fear. This creates a loop where the past reacts first, the present moment arrives too late to be felt. Mind invented thinking and knowing are just the brain trying to stabilize over old wiring. When the nervous system is stuck in past based activation, the mind tries to make sense of it. It invents explanations, assumptions, predictions, identity stories. I already know thinking. The mental constructions aren't awareness, they're protective illusions designed to match the body's old programming. Because the mind is busy narrating the past, it can never perceive the present. You're thinking, but lacks seeing what it is, knowing, but never knowing. Past anchored programming becomes a comfort zone the mind mistakes for identity. Old nervous system patterns feel familiar, and the mind confuses familiarity with, with truth. Truth and reality are mind made, so they never really open up to show you what it is. That's for you to question and discover. So it clings to old beliefs, old reactions, old interpretations, old emotional loops. This creates a psychological comfort zone where the past feels safer than the unknown. You see that in your life? I've seen that in my life, but I've risen to understand if it isn't unknown and uncertainty, I'll never expand to my desired lifestyle. Where the past feels safer than the knowing. The mind defends this zone as who I am, even when it's just inherited conditioning. As long as the past feels safer than the present moment stays out of reach. Why mindset is invented, mind programming, mindset isn't something you're born with. It's constructed and built within you. Mindset is built from repeated thought patterns that strengthen neural pathways through neuroplasticity. These patterns become automatic scripts that run without conscious awareness. Memory itself is reconstructed, never recorded, meaning your mind literally rewrites your past to match your current beliefs. And that's what you experience in your daily life. This means mindset is a mental program created by repetition, emotion, interpretation, never an inherited authenticity. The Savage Wise summary is your mindset is your nervous system's old survival codes, and plus your mind's recycled stories pretending to be reality. It feels like you, but it's really inherited reaction, conditioned beliefs, reinforced neural loops, emotional memories, rewritten over time, and why mindset is the prettiest cage you'll ever set in. It wraps the bars in confidence, paints the walls with logic, and calls the whole thing self-improvement. It convinces you that repeating the past is progress, that clinging to old beliefs is strength, and that staying inside familiar patterns is wisdom. But mindset is never freedom. It's the past wearing the crown, built from inherited beliefs you've never questioned, survival patterns you no longer need, interpretations that were never authentic identities you outgrew years ago. Mindset is the unrealized prison because it uses your own thoughts as guards. It keeps you loyal to who you were, never who you're becoming. It keeps you safe, small, and predictable, all while telling you you're evolving. How's your mindset keep you stuck and afraid to move forward? That is something I've noticed. When people say they're stuck on mindset, you watch what the outcome and they stay stuck where they are. The savage truth is A set mind is a trap mind. A fixed belief is a silent chain. A rigid identity is a cage where your name etched into the steel. The moment you feel this, the moment you sense the walls disguised as certainty, the whole structure starts to crack away. And that's where the troublemaker in you rises. Never to burn anything down, but to break everything open. To step out of the past built present into the fluid, intuitive, expansive wisdom that mindset can never contain. That's the thing. Mindset is from the past. Something I really want to iterate here. The nervous system, thinking, knowing, mindset, and your invented mind images are all from the past. Something I want to really reiterate. The nervous system, mindset, and invented mind illusions they stay back here. They never get to here. They make this go back to there and become part of it. Why nervous system programming creates mindset, stubbornness, instigates mind invented thinking and knowing. This nervous system memorizes survival, and the mind defends that memory as a truth. When the nervous system learns a survival pattern, tension, vigilance, avoidance, overthinking, it stores it as safety. The mind builds a mindset around patterns, insisting, this is how things are. This is who I am. This is what I know. The result is stubbornness. Never because the mind is strong, but because the nervous system is scared. The mind becomes a lawyer defending the body's old fear-based programming. Do you see that in your life? I witness it now because I want to rise out of it. A programmed nervous system triggers invented thinking to maintain control. As the nervous system feels unsafe, the mind starts inventing explanation, predictions, assumptions, meanings. This is never clarity, it's control theater. See, the nervous system, all that's kind of like the volume on your TV. It turns it whatever way it wants. The mind creates stories to stabilize the body's discomfort. These stories become knowing even when they're never true. This is how mindsets become a loop of invented thinking instead of noality awareness. Nervous system's rigidity becomes mental rigidity. The mental stubbornness is a tight nervous system can never update, can never adapt, can never receive fresh information. So the mind mirrors the rigidity. Fixed beliefs, fixed identity, fixed interpretation, fixed reactions. The nervous says, don't change, it's dangerous. That's why if you use I rise and expand out of this, the nervous system and anything in you can never attach itself to the dangers and the limitation. The mind translates that into I already know. And the thing about know is coming from repetitions back there. This is how mindset becomes an unrealized prison built from old programming. Why stubbornness and hard-headedness is inherited nervous system programming, mind-invented obstinates creates today's mindsets. Stubbornness is the nervous system protecting old survival codes, never personality. What looks like hard-headedness is often the nervous system rerunning ancient programming. Boy, I can relate to that. It gets a little bit stubborn. Never change, never risk, never question. Stay with what kept you alive before. The body locks into familiar patterns And the mind follows by defending those patterns as authenticity and your truth. This inherited survival wiring becomes mental rigidity, never because the mind is strong, but because the mind is scared, the body's scared. And see, that's the thing. The body reacts before the mind, and if the body's scared, you get into the what keeps you safe. Stubbornness is the nervous system way of saying, I don't feel safe enough to evolve. Nervous system tension triggers invented thinking to maintain control. See, everything comes out of the mind. The mind is invented mind thinking and knowing is what we live our life by. And most of the stuff out here is an egotistical illusion. When the nervous system feels threatened, even by growth, the mind starts inventing explanations, predictions, assumptions, and knowing. And something I'll really share with you. Take know out of your life and use aware. I'm aware of this, and see how that feels liberating. This is never wisdom; it's theater control. The mind creates certainty to soothe the body's discomfort. That's why we go to the repetitions and what makes us feel comfortable in there. The invented certainty becomes obstinance. I know how this works. I know that's right. I know that's possible. But it's never knowing. It's the mind stabilizing the body's old programming. Nervous system rigidity becomes mindset rigidity. The unrealized prison. A nervous system stuck in inherited patterns can never update. You see that? You go out, you make let's say you make a change, but yet the next morning you go back, something occurs, you go back to it. That's your mind keeping you safe. It can never adapt and rise. It can never receive fresh information without interpreting the information as danger. So the mind mirrors the rigidity with fixed beliefs, fixed identity, fixed interpretation, fixed reactions. You're never going to fix anything in life. But however, you can question it, listen to it, hearken to wisdom, and rise out of the fixed reactions into the here and now. This is how today's mindset is formed. Never from clarity, but from old programming masquerading as logic. Hard-headedness is simply the mind defending the nervous system. Nervous system's outdated code. While anger, hate, envy, jealousy are nervous system mindsets creating mind-invented insecurities controlling your daily life. These emotions are nervous system reflexes and character flaws. Anger, hate, envy, jealousy fire before the mind has a time to think and open up fresh reactions to it. Their body leveled alarms triggered when the nervous system senses threat, never physical threats, but emotional ones. Losing value, losing belonging, losing control, losing comparison battles. The body reacts first, the mind reacts second. And that's something that's the way mindset is. The body reacts, and then the mind reacts, and then we're into yesterday. The mind invents insecurities to justify the body's alarm. This is why the emotions feel automatic. They're programmed survival responses, never conscious choices. The mind creates insecurities to explain the body's discomfort. We'll read that again. The mind creates insecurities to explain the body's discomfort. When the nervous system is activated, the mind hates never knowing why. So it starts inventing stories, assumptions, comparison, judgments, imagined scenarios. These stories become insecurities like, I'm not enough, they're better than me, I'm being replaced, I'm losing something. The insecurity is never truth. It's the mind trying to make sense of the nervous system's old programming. The emotion comes first. The insecurity is the mind's attempt to regain control. Nervous system rigidity becomes emotional rigidity. The root of your daily control loops. The nervous system is stuck in old patterns. It reacts to the present as if it were the past. Do you see that? I see that in my life in places, but I'm rising out of and chauffeuring myself away from it. The mind then mirrors that rigidity, overthinking, defensiveness, comparison, suspicion, dramatizing. This is how anger, envy, jealousy, and hate become daily mindsets instead of passing emotions. The nervous system is locked in survival mode, and the mind becomes the narrator of that survival mode. Result, a loop where old programming controls today's reactions, and the mind keeps inventing insecurities to match the body's fear. Why inherited nervous systems, mindset, and mind invented obscurity never rises to present moment. The nervous system runs old survival codes faster than awareness can update. Inherited nervous system patterns fire before conscious thought. If your body learned long ago that tension, vigilance, or self-protection were necessary, it keeps running that code as if the past is happening now. Where do you see that in your life? I've witnessed that in my life, but I'm really starting to let go and be chauffeured away from that. This creates a default state of obscurity, a fog where the body reacts to old danger, never current events. Because the nervous system moves first, the present moment never gets a clean entry point. You're living now, but reacting from the past. You're living now, but you're reacting from the past. Where do you see that? I see that in my life. The mind invents explanations to match the body's outdated reactions. When the nervous system fires old patterns, the mind hates the gap between what you feel and what actually is occurring. So it fills the gap with assumptions, insecurity, immaturity, imagined threats, old interpretations, recycled meanings. This mental noise becomes obscurity, a haze of thoughts that feel true only because they match the body's old programming. So how do you live? How do you experience life through your body's old programming? I've noticed that, and that's something I'm really awakened to lately. Is I really pay attention to the body so I can stop it and rise it out of there, and that's why I took change, heal, create, transformation, self-improvement, personal growth, punctuated writings, everything that takes me back to them moments I rose out of. The mind never sees the present. It's narrating from the past. Nervous system rigidity becomes perceptual rigidity, blocking access to the present. A nervous system stuck in inherited patterns can't relax into awareness. It stays braced, scanning, predicting, comparing all past behaviors. The mind mirrors the rigidity with stubborn belief, fixed identity, repetitive thoughts, emotional loops, resistance to fresh information. This creates a closed perceptual system. The present moment can't be felt because the nervous system is too busy replaying old survival states and the mind is too busy justifying them. Obscurity is never confusion, it's the past hijacking perception. Well, I need to arrest that guy and get him out of my life. No, but it isn't as bad, but I'm really starting to understand. If you open up to inspiration, it bypasses all that junk. Why the world has never rose out of ancestor anchored survival mode programming. Humanity inherited a nervous system built for danger, never consciousness. Our ancestors survived by reacting fast, scanning for threat, and assuming the worst. That wiring kept them alive, but it keeps us trapped in the past. Where do you see that? I see that all over. The nervous system still behaves as if every moment is life or death, even when the threat is a comment, comparison, rejection, a change, an unknown, and a present moment bliss, because the body still runs ancient survival code programming. The world keeps repeating ancient emotional patterns, such as what's going on today. We inherited vigilance, never presence. The mind builds stories to match the body's ancient fear, and it calls it reality. If you express think and know in your life, you're in the past. Use the word mindset, you're stuck in the past. And you got to modernize that nervous system. When the nervous system fires old survival patterns, the mind invents explanations to make the reaction feel logical. This creates rigid beliefs, tribal thinking, suspicion, defensiveness, comparison, and scarcity mindsets. Is the world running in a scarcity mindset today? Yes or no? Yes, it is. These are never problems. They're ancient instincts wearing modern clothes. The world stays stuck because the mind keeps narrating the past as if it's the present. Collective survival programming creates collective stagnation. As billions of nervous systems are anchored in ancestral fear, the global mindset becomes reactive instead of reflective, defensive instead of curious, controlling instead of conscious, repetitive instead of evolving. Societies, cultures, and intuition end up mirroring the same survival patterns. Protect, defend, and resist, repeat. The world doesn't rise because the nervous system doesn't rise because it recycles. How are we recycling everything today? If you really look at it, you can really witness it. Because the world is just recycling the past right now. And the mind keeps justifying the recycling with old stories, old identities, and old fears. Why is indoctrinated education, PhD programming from the nervous system mindsets ingraining mind-invented thinking, knowing, learning, knowledge, and embedded thoughts, keeping people stuck in outdated mindsets? Education trains the nervous system to prioritize compliance over awareness. Most schooling conditions the nervous system to associate with safety with obedience, correctness with approval. This creates a survival-based mindset where the body feels threatened by uncertainty, intuition, creativity, questioning, nonlinear thinking, because the nervous system equates being right with being safe, and the mind becomes rigid. The rigid mind turns into a mindset that clings to old knowledge instead of meeting the present moment with fresh perceptions. And something I'm really going to say here, if you really look at the world, you can see how the world is stuck in the rigidity of our ancestors. Academic achievement reinforces mind-invented knowing instead of lived awareness. And that's something I'm really going to emphasize. Take understanding and knowing out of your life and use aware. Awakened and aware of the dare. but it really alleviates going back into the mind. Higher education often rewards memorization framework and intellectual dominance, never sovereign liberation. The mind learns to invent explanation theories and conclusions to maintain control, even when they're disconnected from real experiences. This creates overthinking, conceptual identity, intellectual ego, fear of knowing, but it's really fear of wisdom. We ain't afraid of knowing, we're afraid of wisdom, intuition, imagination. The mind becomes addicted to its invented certainty. This keeps people stuck in mental abstractions instead of present moment clarity. Knowledge becomes identity, and identity becomes the prison. When education becomes the foundation of self-worth, the nervous system protects that identity at all costs. Anything that challenges old knowledge feels like a threat, never an opportunity. So the mind defends outdated theories, inherited beliefs, rigid interpretations, familiar intellectual patterns. This is how people stay locked in yesterday's mindset, never because they lack wisdom, but because their nervous system is protecting the identity that it was built from. The result is a loop where the past keeps defining the present. Where do you see that in your life? The past keeps defining the present. Why inherited nervous system programming, mindset, mind invented thinking and know is a comfort zone programming is the way of life today. Nervous system clings to the familiar because it equates known with safe. Inherited nervous system programming is never logical. It's never wisdom and innovative. It's protective. Your ancestors survived by staying alert, cautious, or compliant. Your body carries that wiring forward to today. So even when the familiar is limiting, the nervous system treats it as safety. This creates a comfort zone mindset where old reactions feel natural, old beliefs feel true, old patterns feel necessary. You're never stuck because you're weak. You're stuck because your body thinks the past is home. So where do you do that in your life? Where do you think the past is your home? The mind invents thinking and knowing to stabilize the body's old programming. When the nervous system fires ancient patterns, the mind rushes in to explain them. It creates assumptions, interpretations I already know, thinking, identity stories, mental certainty. These are never truths. They're mental scaffolds built to support the body's outdated wiring. The mind becomes a storyteller, protecting the nervous system comfort zone, even when that comfort zone is limiting. Comfort zone programming becomes a lifestyle because it feels like identity, never conditioning. Over time, inherited nervous system patterns and mind invented thinking fuse into signal experiences. This is just who I am, but it's not identity, it's repetition. The body repeats old survival states. The mind repeats old explanations. Together, they create a life shaped by predictable reactions, rigid beliefs, familiar emotional loops, resistance to change. Comfort zone programming becomes default because it feels safe when it's outdated. It's never your truth, it's your inheritance. And that's what we're really. Are you open to rising out of your ancestors' inheritance and opening up to your trend setting talents to liberate you from you? All this stuff out there, all you are is being a liberator of your own talents. And anyway, I want to thank you. I am Robert A. Wilson with Cowboy Wisdom, and may your life always flow with abundance and freedom, now and forevermore. And thank you, and enjoy your weekend.